friends, it's Anna. Hope you're doing well today. In this video, I'm excited to share with you guys my 2023 March bullet journal setup. We're going to jump right into the first page, which is my calendar page like normal. I'm using my large black Tombow brush pen to write the month as my title at the top of the page in a basic calligraphy font. Underneath the title, I'm drawing a calendar for March using one of my Staedtler fine liner pens. I believe this is with 0.5 millimeters. Each day in the calendar is a square 5x5 boxes wide using the grid spaces in my journal, and I have just a standard A5 size journal. Now I'm stamping the days of the week at the top using my alphabet stamp set, and as always, all the supplies I'm using will be listed with a link in the description box below. Now I'm going in with this light beige colored Crayola marker and drawing some circles in the corner of each day. This is going to be a subtle color background for where I'm going to write all the dates for each day. All the coloring I'm going to do in this video will be using these Crayola markers. They come from the set Colors of the World, so it's kind of like a portrait skin tone palette. But I also just love these colors in general. They're very muted and warm, and a lot of them, like the colors I'm using in this theme, are pretty translucent, so they can come across as more subtle on the page, and you can write over them, which I prefer for my bullet journal. Anyways, this marker set was only $7 on Amazon, so definitely a great find. As you can see, the theme I chose for March was mushrooms. This was a suggestion from one of my friends. Thank you, Kalina. I'm starting off my drawing with 2 mushrooms at the bottom left corner. All the drawings in this theme will be pretty simple. I think it took me about 5 minutes to sketch this one in pencil first in real time, and then even less going over it with my fine liner pen. I start with an outline of the mushroom and then add a few more lines at the edges to give it a bit more detail. And in the underside of the cap, I drew those lines coming out from the middle to represent the mushroom gills, which is what those are called on real mushrooms. I'm also adding some vines of leaves to the drawings, and to make these leaves a little more interesting, I'm using a variety of shapes and sizes. So some of the leaves will be big, some small, some squat, some long and skinny. I really like how that makes the vines look. Now I'm doing a smaller but very similar drawing on the top right of the calendar to help balance out the page. And in the bottom right corner, I'm just going to draw some of those same leafy vines. To color these in, I'm going to start with that same color I used on the calendar, light medium almond it's called, for the stem, gills, and ring. The ring is that little section on the mushroom that circles the top of the stem. This is just going to serve as my base mushroom color. Next, I am going to use a slightly darker marker, color medium almond, to line the edges where I already added those cross contour lines with the black pen. This is a super easy way to add a little bit of depth to the mushrooms. I'm coloring the caps with this beautiful deep rose color. My inspiration for these mushrooms was the classic Amanita muscaria mushroom. I think I'm pronouncing that right. The one with the bright red cap and white spots. But I don't really like the color bright red for my bullet journal aesthetic at least, so I'm doing a deep rose version instead. For the leaves, I decided to use this color light golden. When I was drawing out ideas and did this drawing with green leaves, I think because of the contrast of the red and green, the drawing just popped so much more, which is great for just a drawing in general. But in my journal, I personally prefer for the art to work with the functionality of the spreads and not necessarily draw my eyes away from it. So I decided to go for these golden leaves, which I think maintains that warm, muted, more subtle look I'm going for. And you'll see me a few times go in with my white gel pen to fix when I colored outside the lines. The last step is using that white gel pen. This came from a jelly roll set to draw the little spots or scales, as they're officially called, on the caps. And here's the final calendar spread. On to the next spread. First, I'm writing the title with one of my smaller Tombow calligraphy brush pens. I decided to title these pages Notes for March because they're going to contain a few different things. If you saw my February setup video, I did the same spread last month and really liked it. So I'm going to start off by outlining 3 boxes, and after that I'll title what each box is using my alphabet stamp set. The top box on the left page will be for intentions, and the bottom box on this page will be for goals. I like having a separate space for these two things because I like using goals as specific tasks that I can check off, whereas intentions are a lot more loose. So for example, I might have an intention to put my focus on a group of tasks. So for that, I could write, I will focus on spring cleaning this month. Or I might want to call out a habit that I really want to prioritize. So I could write, I will prioritize doing my morning routine this month. An intention can even be how I want to feel. So I could write, my priority is to feel productive this month, or to feel rested, or to feel connected with friends and family. It gives me a chance to kind of set the tone for the month by listing focuses and priorities. And then, like I said, I use the goals box for specific tasks that I want to get done. So at the beginning of the month, when I first fill these boxes out, I'm going to first reference my quarterly spread and see what goals I still have left that I want to achieve this first quarter of the year. And if you want to see how I set up my quarterly spread, feel free to check out my quarter 1 and January setup video. I'll try to link it above or below. But this goals box is also a great space for tasks that I just think up throughout the month and can write down when they come up. On the right page, I have a reflections box. I'll use this at the end of the month and journal my responses to a few reflection questions, things like what went well and didn't go well this month, how did you feel, or what would you want to change for next month. And these reflections should be really handy for creating intentions for that next month. So I think I'll definitely think about my reflections for February when I'm writing my intentions for March. I'm doing some more mushrooms and leafy vines for the art on these pages. In the bottom right corner, I'm drawing a line of mushrooms with a variety of shapes and sizes, and then I have another mushroom in the top left corner and some vines trailing around the pages and through the boxes. I tried to make it seem like the vine that is popping out of the goals box eventually leads up to the mushroom in the intentions box, and that the vine starting kind of in the middle of the pages at the bottom eventually goes behind the reflections box and pops out again in the top right corner. I'm sticking with pretty much the same colors, starting with that light medium almond for the mushroom base and adding some depth with the slightly darker medium almond, doing that deep rose for the cap, and I'll stick with the light golden for the leaves. For the line of mushrooms in the bottom right, I wanted to add a little bit of variety to the color of the caps to match the different shapes and make it a little less monotone. So for the very outermost two mushrooms, I'm going to introduce this medium deep rose color. Crayola was very creative with all their color names. And then for the tall and thin stemmed mushrooms, I'm using the color medium golden for a supernatural looking mushroom to balance out the brightness from the lighter pink. For the middle mushroom, I'm going back to the deep rose color to keep this tied in with the rest of the theme. I decided not to draw the white scales on these mushrooms, not for any particular reason except for that I thought it looked really good as is. And here's the final spread. Moving on to our next pages, which will be my habit and mood trackers. I'm starting with my habits page on the left side and outlining the title in a serif style font using the fine tip of my large black Tombow brush pen again. And then I'll fill in the title using the brush tip side. Below the title, I'm drawing an outline of the month of March 6 times for the 6 habits I want to track this month. This is the same basic layout I've been using for my habit trackers since the beginning of the year. Basically, each day of the month is represented by one of the squares on the page. So each day that I do a habit, I mark it with a little X in that square. And then I can look back at the end of each week or the month and easily see how often I did each habit. The only one I track a little different is water intake, which I track in ounces throughout the day using an app on my phone and watch. So for that habit, instead of an X, I write the number of ounces of water I drank that day in the little box. Next, I'm going to write the days of the week at the top of each mini calendar, and then I'll go on to write each of the habit names below the calendar. For the habit names, I'm just using a basic cursive font. Something that I wanted to add to this month's habit tracker is a specific goal for each tracker, since I don't necessarily need to do all of these habits all 31 days of the month. So for example, my morning routine is specifically for weekdays. The specific vitamins I take, I only aim to take a few times a week. So I'm going to write those specific goals on the side of the calendar, and that way I can easily compare my progress directly with the goal written right next to it. I'm decorating these pages with some more vines and mushrooms. I'm framing the left side with a longer vine, and then I'm going to draw a few mushrooms and some more leaves at the bottom of the page. For the caps, I decided to stick with the deep rose for the middle mushroom and then use that medium golden for the 2 side mushrooms. I also decided to add the white scales back to these mushrooms. As you'll see, the scales play an important part in my mood tracker on the next page, so I wanted to tie in the 2 pages together. After finishing the page, I felt like something was missing in the top left corner, so I added a little vine up there too. Moving on to my mood tracker, I'm titling the page with a bold calligraphy font in black. As you can tell, I decided to keep all my titles for this theme in plain black without other colors or drop shadows because I like that clean, minimal look, and keeping bullet journal spreads on the minimal side also makes them more realistic time-wise as well. Now I'm drawing a large mushroom that's going to take up most of the page, and I'll also draw some leaves coming up from the base as well. My idea for this mood tracker is that each of the scales I'm going to draw on the mushroom cap will represent a day of the month, and then I'll color in the scales according to a key where each color represents a different mood. So I started off just by drawing a bunch of scales in pencil and then counted them and added some more until I got to 31 for 31 days of the month. And now I'm tracing back over them with my fine liner, and then I'll go in and number them as well. I'm coloring in the mushroom in the same way with the medium and light medium almond colors, and then I'm going to color in the mushroom cap between the scales with the deep rose. I will say coloring between the scales was a bit tedious because I was trying to minimize the amount of marker streaks and overlap because I didn't want the color to get too dark if I ended up coloring multiple layers. This is one of the reasons why sometimes I prefer using paint in my bullet journal, because when you're filling large spaces like this, it's easier to do that with a brush and blend it without streaks. Not that the marker streaks are a big deal, I still think it looks totally fine, but I am curious what you guys prefer, either paint or marker in your journals, so definitely let me know in the comments below. Now I'm using my white gel pen to fix a few areas where I colored into the scales. I'm not being too particular about this, just fixing the areas that had a good amount of deep rose over the line. Then the last step for the art is coloring in the leaves. To finish off the page, I'm going to create my key. I chose a few different colors from the Crayola Colors of the World set, ranging from light browns to light pinks, and I'm just drawing a little line of the color and then writing the mood next to it. And we're done with the habit and mood trackers. On to my last spread of this setup, which is my first weekly spread for March. This will be for week 9 of the year. And wow, can we take a moment to think about the fact that it's March already? I cannot believe we're this far into 2023 and spring is just right around the corner, which I'm so happy about because I'm so ready to be warm when I walk outside. Anyways, I'm dividing these pages into halves. This weekly spread will take up 4 pages in my journal, and each half page is for one day of the week, except for this last page on the right side is for my weekly task list. This is where I write things that just need to be done this week, but don't have to be done on a certain day. I'm using my alphabet stamp set to title each column with the days of the week. Later, you'll see me fold the middle page in half to create a faux Dutch door so that my weekly task list will be visible no matter what day of the week I'm looking at. That way, when I am planning my days using my daily columns, I can easily glance over and see what weekly tasks I might want to assign to that day. Now for the art, I'm starting out with a mushroom and some leaves in the top left corner next to the weekly title. And then for the bottom of the right page, I decided to do a really simple design of just the caps of 3 mushrooms in a row, as if the caps are just kind of lying on the ground next to each other. And then I'm putting a vine trailing behind and through them. For the colors, I'm putting the deep rose central as with the rest of the drawings I've done, and then the 2 caps on the sides will be that more natural looking brown color, medium golden. For the mushroom in the top left, I'm bringing back that bright pink, medium deep rose color. And then I'm going to add the white scales with my gel pen to all of these because just the bare caps do look a little plain without them. Last thing before flipping the page is adding an underline to the weekday titles to make them stand out a bit more. And then we're going to flip the page and do pretty much the same design for the bottom of Friday and Saturday. Something I did forget to do is date my days. Usually I stamp the date in the right corner of each day column, so I just did that after I was done filming. In the bottom right corner in my weekly tasks column, I'm adding another mushroom drawing, which will be of 2 mushrooms. The one on the edge will be that tall and thin design, which I'll color the medium golden like I did when I drew these specific mushrooms on the Notes for March page. And the shorter one next to that will be the lighter pink color. And then I'm keeping everything the same for the mushroom caps on the left page. Last step is underlining the days of the week again, and then we are going to fold this page like I mentioned to create that Dutch door. Alright, right, it's time to do a final flip through of my completed March setup. I am loving this mushroom theme. It feels very transition from winter to spring to me for some reason, and I really like this color palette as well. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I can't thank you enough for watching it and supporting my channel. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and feel free to subscribe to follow along for more bullet journal and art content. Thank you guys again, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.